How's it going in Denver? Happy Tuesday.
Tuesday to you as well, Garrett. How are things going?
We're good. We're good. Just enjoying the summer. Hard to believe it's August on Saturday, but
I know, I know, it flies by, but we are enjoying every second of it that we can. So,
absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for joining. I understand we have a pretty exciting power session ahead today. I know we've, over the last two or three of them kind of discussed mostly things centered around Nova. So kind of continue that trend and cash flow and, see how we can make better decisions and kind of get more insights into the position and performance of your cash flow, which is obviously important.
yep, and just kind of taking a good snapshot of all the new features within the new system as we are continuing to roll out updates in the platform as well. So, um, yeah, for the cash flow forecast that we have within the Nova platform, we'll see that we'll have kind of two different views here within the cash flow. So, kind of the overview and then the typical 13-week forecast that I think everyone is probably used to at this point. But within the
Sure.
overview page, we can kind of see some of the kind of snapshot of cash on hand, what the cash flow has been over the last couple months, and then kind of seeing what are some of the largest open receivables, largest open payables, but just a nice quick, like I said, snapshot of you know where we've been over the last couple months, and if we want to include or dial up or dial back the range here, we most certainly can. But what's more in line with what I want to go through today is the 13-week forecast, right? So taking a look here at probably some familiar territory as we're looking at what is our current cash, when is our lowest balance, which I think is a good call out for looking over those next 13 weeks based on money we have today, money coming in the door, money going out the door. Where are we expecting, the biggest, or I guess the lowest point of our cash position, right? So it'll say, all right, the week of October 19th, in 12 weeks, we're looking at our biggest or lowest amount for our cash, right? So
Sure.
um, early pay eligible, we'll go through some of the quick, how you can kind of navigate through the QuickPay Direct, but then kind of also showing, our buckets for what's overdue on AR, overdue on AP. So just kind of saying, hey, what's what's past the due date, right? So that way we just keep good visibility on everything in here as well. So looking at this forecast window here, right? All the green's going to be the money in the door, blue's going to be our money out the door. So give us a nice visual on where those cash positions are going to be over those next 13 weeks. And then for the early pay scenario, we can kind of play around with, if we are looking at our overdue only, high value ones, just kind of seeing like, what's going to be the difference as we're considering some of those early pay or quick pay direct invoices in the system here, right? So as we're looking at the bottom, right, we've configured what our cash positions are and all of the inflow and outflow sections. So the look and feel will be pretty similar to the current iteration of the cash flow forecast for ProNovos, but as we're looking through each of the different weeks, right, similar, right, click on it, you can see all the invoices that make up, our $5,400 here. We can sort it by the amount or the due date and kind of just look at, the information about any of those. So plotting in some additional inflow items or outflow, we can kind of control, right, the amount, the frequency, start date, end date. Pretty similar to right the current platform, right? So all that to say, I wanted to bring over a lot of the similar look and feel for each of the different workflows within the system, but leveraging Nova a little bit on, maybe just giving us status updates, or I don't know, just general questions we may want to ask Nova. So I put in a couple of questions here that I prepped for today's power session. But if, I wanted to just say, hey, what's the status of cash flow currently? It'll give us a read on each of those individual weeks, inflows, outflows, what our ending balances are going to be. But then, a few key takeaways. So we've got our cash here, and cash goes negative as early as, what would that be, next week here? Yep. So next week, cash goes negative, never recovers, reaching, a big dollar amount in late October. So as we've kind of pointed out with some of the other modules within Nova, is prompting it, giving it questions, asking Nova here, but then what do we want to do with that kind of information here? So since I'm asking about our cash positions here, it's going to say, do I want to look at the overdue AR invoices? What's the breakdown? Do I want to draft up, follow-up emails to some of our customers? Do I want to update any of my accounts payable invoices for the expected payment dates? So this is where we can kind of take it to that next step for not just retrieving the information, but then what do I want to do with what I'm asking Nova directly?
Sure. I know you said we have that dip coming up in October. Is there something you could recommend we ask Nova on how best to deal with that?
Yeah. And, the other question I had it here was, given current cash positions, should I look at submitting any QuickPay Direct requests for invoices? If so, what invoices? Right. So what it did here was actually, it actually opened it here, right? And then this is where it'll take us to, all right, we've picked 2 invoices for us to submit today for $52,000. Wire to our account tomorrow, so that we can kind of see also some different scenarios as well. So if we wanted to clean up, any of our overdue invoices, cover our weekly payroll, so or minimize the fees because maybe these invoices are projected to be paid a little bit sooner. So we can kind of see the scenarios. All right, for each one of these, all right, there's 14 invoices totaling $31,000. Fees only reaching us $580 for those 14 invoices, or maximize cash a day. Here's all of the eligible invoices. Maybe we want to just clean up, a good chunk of what's sitting out there, and what we would get, and then based on when we're expected to be paid on each of those invoices, it would project what those early pay fees would be. So if I want to say, all right, let's minimize the fees, let's click here. It would show us the list of invoices. Same scenario, right? Upload the contract, upload the pay app, throw them in here. Once we have all the invoices, or if I wanted to say, well, we don't need this one, we don't need this one, we can get rid of some of these just to, submit the ones that we want. But then we would see, all right, there's our total outstanding, estimated fees. All right, we're getting that tomorrow. And then the remainder of it once the customer owner GC pays, the balance on those. So anyone looking for, additional capital as they're, covering payroll or material expenses or anything like that, you can obviously submit these through here as well. But that is kind of the benefit of having Nova kind of on demand, if you will, where we can kind of ask it any sort of questions and just get the feedback, take us through what's our next steps to make sure that if there's anything we missed here. So the way I looked at this one was, let's look at those invoices that are projected to be paid by August 15th. So then it gave me the list of invoices basically this week till August 15th. So then it would say, all right, based on that, hey, here's our total projected amount. Here's a couple invoices that are projected for July 27th. If those don't come in, QuickPay Direct would be the fastest way to recover that cash. So it's all very cool stuff. And, I think everyone here, myself, Garrett, everyone is super excited to talk as much about Nova as possible, just because of all the, embedded functionality that, whether it's navigation or education or even just, suggestions or working you through each one of the different steps for, each of the different modules. I think it's going to be really cool once we get everything going, get everyone kind of in the new platform once we feel it's the appropriate time. But yeah, I think just having it available, explain some of this, show me invoices that are due this week, that week. It's all, right there in front of you.
Yeah, say obviously, we have a lot of rolling numbers there over the next 13 weeks. So Nova making it easier to dive into those numbers, get the details, I think cuts down a lot of legwork there.
Yep. Yeah. And just for anyone who might be curious, obviously with this being the newer platform, the goal with, and once we get to a point where we could, get people on the new platform, the goal would be to pull over the information from the legacy ProNovos. So if you had a bunch of, plotted items in your current ProNovos platform, once we would get you guys access into Nova, we have all those pull in. So that way, all the work that you've done in the current system will pull over into the new one. And that way it'll make the transition a whole heck of a lot easier and less kind of double entry, if you will.
Yeah, that's been one of the main questions on the Nova walkthroughs we've done is, for instance, like the WIP, people may have a lot of workspaces saved or across a lot of employees that they want to pull up, as default.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
mirroring that one-to-one would save a lot of time, and I think people would see a ton of value in that going over and not having to recreate all that.
Yeah, not even just the workspace, all the projected cost updates or revenue forecasts we've
Yeah.
done previously, like being able to pull all those in that way, it just makes the new platform kind of pick up where we left off previously, right? But yeah, I think, from a functionality standpoint, we're trying to keep a lot of this pretty similar look, if you will, just if you're used to seeing it this way, but then being able to unlock additional insights with Nova, giving us the snapshots, or hey, do we want to go ahead and send out some of those collection emails? We can do that right from. So we'll do want to throw out there what our next power session is going to be on. It'll be for field reporting for project managers. So how to keep up on the daily reports, project schedules, job site photos, and then talk through some of the communication between the field and office. So kind of using more of the documentation side of each of the jobs and how we can incorporate those within Nova as well. And that'll be on the 11th at our typical 1 o'clock Eastern time.
Sounds good.
All right, let's see. I think we got one question
Oh,
here.
yeah, we got one there. Okay.
Is there any way to print the? That is a good question. I don't see that we have the export functionality just yet, but we'll incorporate the similar, export to PDF or Excel, or, print it out as well. So as we're continuously building out the platform, those will be some of the key things that we want to make sure are in there as well. Right. All right. So I think that's all the questions for now. looks amazing. Look forward to the raw. We are so excited to roll this out. So yes, we share the same sentiment on the new platform as well. So well, I think that's what we have for today. If obviously if anyone has questions, comments, thoughts, feature requests, we'd obviously love to hear any and all feedback on the platform. So reach out to myself or Garrett, and we'll be happy to sit down and chat with you guys.
Yep. Yeah, we're around, and if you don't have credentials, reach out as well, and we should get you in there.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, we appreciate everyone joining us for today's power session on the cash flow forecast, and we look forward to showing you more about the platform. And like I said, if anything comes up, we're always around to help out.
Sounds good. Well,
Thanks
thanks
for
for
your
your
time
time.
today, Garrett.
Yep. Happy Tuesday, all.
All right, we'll talk to you guys. Bye.
Bye.